You're playing along, everything's going great, and then suddenly you hit the wrong string. It's annoying, right? But here's the thing. That's not bad luck. You're making a technical mistake. And in this video, I'm going to show you 3 tiny adjustments that you can make to stop that from ever happening again. These are the same biomechanical techniques I use with my private students to help improve accuracy, tone, and control. They just work. So let's fix it. I'm Max Rich, and I specialize in guitar biomechanics, how your body actually moves when you play. We'll fix the 3 biggest reasons you keep hitting the wrong string, and I'll give you a quick drill for each one so that you can correct it today. Most players miss strings because their pick comes in too flat or shallow, almost parallel to the top of the guitar. That shallow angle causes your pick to brush up against neighboring strings before it ever even gets to the one that you want. The fix? Change your attack angle. Try coming in a little bit steeper, somewhere between 25 and 45 degrees. Now, you don't have to get a protractor out and measure it, but if you take a look at a flat angle versus a steeper angle, you can see that on the steeper angle, your pick actually moves towards the body of the guitar instead of towards the ground. And with that steeper angle, it gives you better control so that you can clear the lower strings and actually strike the one that you're aiming for. So a good exercise to get used to this is to take a really big, wide stroke, almost like you're strumming. So you're gonna aim for a single string, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna try to drive your pick through that string into the next string and stop, like a rest stroke. Let your pick land gently on that next string, and then you can reset. That's gonna give you the proper entry, and it's gonna give you a good escape angle so that when you come back up with your hand, you're not dragging through the lower strings either. All right, next up, wrist deviation. What is that? That's basically the side-to-side pivot that players use when they pick the guitar. Now that pivoting motion might look small and efficient, but it's really not. It burns a lot of energy and it limits control. Whether your pick is resting on the bridge or floating in the air when you pick, this problem shows up. When you rest your wrist on the bridge, your motion is locked. All you can really do is pivot back and forth. And when you float your hand, you tend to overuse your wrist and elbow together, both of which make targeting strings really hard. The problem with this back and forth pivoting in your wrist is that your pick is essentially moving in a straight line, up and down. And if you're targeting something other than the low E string, and you're moving in a straight line, those lower strings are going to be in the way. And the solution is to add forearm rotation. It's smoother, more efficient, and gives you better control over the attack of your pick. Think of your forearm and wrist as one unit. The rotation adds control over the direction of your pick, and suddenly your picking seems to be a lot more accurate and you have a lot more control. And when you rotate from the forearm, you're actually moving in an arc, not a straight line. So you can skip those lower strings and target the one that you're actually aiming for. And here's the thing, you can still use your wrist just a little bit differently. Instead of pivoting using this wrist deviation, you want to use a little bit of flexion where you bend your wrist. Keep your eye on my pick. When I rotate my forearm with a flat wrist, I get a small, tight arc in my pick stroke. When I flex my wrist and rotate from the forearm, I get a really big, wide arc. Less wrist bend equals tighter and more focused. More wrist bend equals a wider arc, perfect for strumming or hitting and targeting multiple strings. And that one small adjustment allows you to cover chord playing and single notes with one basic movement. Okay, so a good exercise to practice this is to actually break it up into single strings and multiple strings. And to start with, we're going to do a string changing exercise using downstrokes and upstrokes on an E minor 9 chord. So you're going to want to determine the amount of flexion in your wrist, how much wrist bend you have, in order to play single strings instead of multiple strings. And remember, the less flex you have, the straighter your wrist, the tighter that arc is going to be, and the more accurate you're going to be for single strings. And it goes like this. And it's important to keep in mind that you want that movement to come from the rotation of the forearm. It's going to feel like you want to pivot the wrist. Allow yourself to rotate the forearm, and that's how the pick is going to travel through the air. And then if you want to take this to multiple strings, we're going to go up the fretboard and we're going to play on the top 3 strings. We're going to play E minor, D major, C major, and B minor. And when we're doing multiple strings, remember that we want to flex the wrist a little bit more. A little bit goes a long way. So when we flex it, we can widen that arc out and get multiple strings instead of targeting only one. So aim for the peak of that arc to be at your target string. All right, finally, the slingshot motion. This is where accuracy meets effortless playing. That same relaxed feeling you get when you're strumming cowboy chords, that's what we're after. Start by rotating your forearm upward slowly while you're flexing the wrist. Then as you drop the pick, let your wrist and hand rebound naturally. That stored tension releases your pick fast with a sharp attack. You'll want to feel like you're driving down with the outside of your wrist and your pick is lagging behind your hand. It's the same principle as a pitcher's elbow. The ball stays behind as they throw, the elbow moves forward, and then whip, the ball comes flying. So when you rotate your forearm, flex your wrist, and then your pick lags behind, all that energy is stored up. And then when you relax, your pick comes slingshotting through and your hand will rebound back up with zero energy. And the zero energy part is huge because what you don't want to do is use energy on a downstroke and then use energy on an upstroke. Because if you're doing that, you're constantly using energy and your hand never gets a break. Okay, so to practice this, you got to start slow and you got to focus on single, deliberate strokes, paying attention to the rebound and that relaxation, that slingshot motion that brings your hand back up. Once it's smooth, you can add in your left hand with simple scales and work it up to harder and harder things from there. And as you watch me do it, take a look at how when I wind up, my pick ends up coming above my hand, and as I drive down, that's when I release, and that release is what slingshots my pick through and brings my hand back. And if you've ever wished that someone could take a look at your hands and tell you exactly what's going wrong, well, that's what I do. You send me 3 short slow motion clips and I'll break it down biomechanically, showing you visually and technically exactly where the mistakes are and how to fix them. It's like having a biomechanics coach in your pocket. Run each drill for at least 5 minutes a day. It doesn't take a lot to rewire your technique in your brain, but it requires focus and concentration. You have to make sure that you're not just going through the motions and you're kind of aimlessly using your pick on the strings. You have to be deliberate and you have to be focused with what you're trying to do. So before you start, plan out a goal for yourself. Maybe it's something like, I want to hit the correct string 8 times in a row before moving on to the next string. And you don't move on to the next string until you get those 8 times. Consistency in mechanics always beats speed. Build that foundation and then the speed will follow. So for the first few days or times you practice these exercises, go extremely slowly and focus on using the correct mechanics, the correct technique every single time, and your brain will learn what you want and the speed will come really quickly after that. Okay, so a quick recap. Attack into the string from outside, not above. Use forearm rotation and some wrist flexion instead of pivoting back and forth with your wrist. And add that slingshot motion where your pick lags behind for natural, relaxed rebound. And if these or any of my other tips have helped you, but your hands still don't do what you want, that's where my video analysis comes in. You send me your slow motion clips and I'll show you exactly, frame by frame, what's happening, biomechanically and technically. Then I'll show you an exact list of exercises, how to do them to fix that problem and get rid of it permanently. So if you're ready to make your playing feel effortless, hit that link below and we'll fix your technique together.